More than 7,000 people turned out to give him a folk hero's funeral. He was buried with his ever-present cell phone held up to his ear. What Bama shit is that? That is some Bama shit. Oh, my life, be waiting for you. No, how you do. So, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and tip your favorite narrator via Cash App at $NAROB on YouTube. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now let's continue reading Natalie Cole. Lovers, please do not forget that we are uploading, I think it's part 6 of Bling tomorrow, Saturday. Roro, come sit your butt down. Bad boy Bobby Brown, come sit your ass down. Y'all, by July of 1984, I was working for Steve Wynn, appearing at the Golden Nugget in downtown Las Vegas. Steve was my employer, good friend, and a dear man. I am still so grateful to him for taking me on when nobody else would. The good news was that I was alive and sober, and I was working, and I hoped I could still sing my butt off. The bad news was that I was gonna have to sing my butt off because it had gotten so enormous. So, listen, I don't agree with being obese, even though I'm considered obese. Not obese. Obese. A good weight for me is like 184. For some reason, and that 184 is right below obese. Okay? It's like overweight. But for some reason, it's hard for me to stay under 190. That's Lulu nowadays. Okay? So during this time, I'm trying to tell you, if you weren't thin or small, baby, they wore your ass out. And I know this because my mother would be on me about maintaining my weight. Remember, my mother was a model up until she had me at 15. This gave up modeling to have me. Damn all that. I ain't finna give up my career for no baby. But I mean, she said she was in love. This is during a time that there was no such thing as the IG model. You had to be Josephine Baker thin, Lynn Whitfield in A Thin Line Between Love and Hate thin. You hear me? You couldn't be thick. So she's beating herself up because she has gained some weight. Remember, she was on that crack pipe diet. That motherfucker is like the Wagovi. Hazelton had done a great deal to restore my self-esteem, and it also restored my sense of vanity. I became very self-conscious about how I looked on stage. I cared again about my appearance. My size presented a practical problem. I couldn't get into any of my clothes. I didn't have the money to go out and buy new ones, so we found a seamstress who could run up a few things for me to perform in real cheap. The gig at the Golden Nugget was not a fancy showroom. After years as a headliner, I was back to working the lounge. It was a big come down from where I'd been playing before, but nevertheless, it was a place to start. And it was pretty cool being back on stage, any stage. I wasn't real happy about the way I looked, so I compensated by singing the house down. I was delighted to be singing again, and even more delighted when I realized that I hadn't lost my ability to connect with the audience. I connected with a few members in the audience in particular, including a guy who might be considered my first boyfriend since Hazleton. He was a professional gambler. I sure know how to pick them, don't I? Butch was much younger than me and was actually quite a nice guy. At least he wasn't into drugs. It turned out that he traveled with a posse. There was Grandpa Bad Markers and a guy named Munchies. The head guy, the godfather, was named Willie, Flukey Stokes. They all wore those broke down hats and big fur coats. Girl, you don't know that this dude is a part of a pimpery? So I just Googled Mr. Flukey Stokes. This nigga is a Chicago mobster. This hussy is hanging out with a Chicago mobster. They were Mac Daddy to their hearts. For those in need of a translation, a Mac Daddy is a guy who dresses fly. He doesn't have to be cute. He's got a pimp look, but not necessarily a pimp mentality. He is generous. You never know too much about him, and he's always surrounded by women. Girl, I don't know what she talking about. That sounds like a pimp to me. I don't know what she talking about. I don't know what that is. Even the ones that hang around pimps that ain't pimps try to be pimps. Okay, I don't know what she talk about. Butch and his friends all dressed in orange or yellow or turquoise or lavender color coordinated suits right down to their silk underwear. Even their socks matched. The fuck? Even their socks matched. You had to question their taste. But everything they wore looked expensive. I never had seen anything like it before. They looked like throwbacks to 1969, but a nice group of guys you've never met. And they treated me like gold. This sounds crazy to me. I don't know what she talking about. All this sound like these pimps was like, let's just get her on our team. I had never met them when they came to one of my shows at the Golden Nugget. After that, they came almost every night, 5 or 6 of them, and they would make requests. Butch and his friends just loved watching me perform. Girl, they is plotting on you, girl. They is plotting on you. They is looking at you like a way to get to the money, girl. After the show, they would sit with me and talk, and then they would go gamble. I only went gambling with them once. Thank the Lord, gambling is one addiction that I missed. It held no attraction for me at all. In fact, I disliked it so much that I would run instead of walk whenever I had to go through the casino. Not these guys. When the group walked into the casino, they were there on business. And they were expected. They would typically bring in $500,000 in cash, lose it one day, get it back the next day, and then add an extra $300,000 or $400,000 the day after that. They were serious gamblers, and they knew when to quit. So they did make money. Nicole was delusional. If they think for 1 second that the house was allowing them to come in there and take their money every time, the casino bosses didn't seem to mind, and the whole posse seemed well thought of. They were nice people, at least to me. Unlike the typical slicksters, I was really the only lady these guys had around them. Wow. 1 or 2 had a girlfriend come with them occasionally, but they didn't have a bevy of women hanging around them, at least not when I was there. They showed a lot of respect for me and they thought I was the bee's knees. Butch took me to dinner, behaved like a gentleman, and treated me like a lady. My instincts told me, however, that Flukey led a double life, and so he did. What a surprise. Bitch, why you think you dead, girl? You not dead just for eye candy, girl. It turns out that Butch's boss was more than a professional gambler. He was also a money launderer, drug dealer, and debt collector. Here we go. He kept most of his money underneath his kitchen floor. When Flukey was gunned down on Chicago's South Side in 1986, more than 7,000 people turned out to give him a folk hero's funeral. He was buried with his ever-present cell phone held up to his ear. What Bama shit is that? That is some Bama shit. 2 years earlier, Flukey had buried his son, Willie, the Wimp Stokes, in somewhat more flamboyant style. Willie Jr. had been propped up in a coffin built to resemble a Cadillac Eldorado convertible, complete with blinking headlights and taillights, a windshield, white wall tires, a Cadillac grill, and his vanity license plate, which read Wimp. His hands holding the steering wheel had 100 bills woven between the bejeweled fingers. That is some Bama shit. I just knew that someone was going to dig that thing up eventually. My engagement in the lounge lasted about 2 weeks. Vegas paid well, but Dan didn't want me to play there for too long. I wasn't wild about staying longer either, although I'd been well paid and well treated at the Golden Nugget. The Vegas of 1984 was a lot seedier than the Vegas of today. No, the fuck it ain't. He wanted my career to move forward, and he had a plan.